Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm with Graeme Haskett today. Graeme and we've known each other a long time. I'd say more than 15 years. And we've worked together before with some of our clients. Graeme's got quite a specialist skill set. So from a construction background originally, he moved into repair and maintenance and refurbishment. And he's been doing a lot of work with social housing and social housing stock. And looking at that from an operational perspective and delivering transformational change to make sure that the housing stock is well maintained and that we keep the bad press down to a minimum in that space. So, but Graeme, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Graeme Haskett. As you can see, I'm Scottish. I've spent all my life running my own businesses. I've been in either engineering and manufacturing or in construction. And since about 2001, a lot of it has been in social housing. So I've done various contracts across the country in social housing, trying to improve their efficiency and productivity.
And you've also done some scheduled works when they're doing like full refurbishments of estates, haven't you?
Yes. When they speak about repairs and maintenance, that includes refurbishment, planned works to new kitchens, new bathrooms. Refurbishing the properties totally.
And I remember the work that you did with us. I think the conversation with me from the client started something along the lines of, operationally, our social housing maintenance is going wrong, and we're getting pressed for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, previous governments don't want social housing, so social housing. People, whether it's the councils or individual providers, have been burdened with regulations that were introduced to tie them in knots and use up all their money. They don't have an awful lot of money anyway, so they've had to focus on diversity and sustainability and inclusion and setting up departments for all this, and they've spent all the money on that. And at the coalface, they haven't spent much money at all, so they're getting a lot of problems. They're getting a lot of criticism from the tenants. Now that there's been a change of government, there's going to be supposedly a big injection because they want to build another 1.5 million homes, and there's going to be some money available to do the repairs and maintenance that they didn't do before. So those are the problems that I tackle. I see lots of contracts when you go there where they haven't tackled the workforce. They've often got far too many people. They haven't streamlined them. They haven't got rid of the bad ones. Then they haven't given them the proper resources. So that's what I do. I look at the teams. You find that often when I speak to the social housing people, they'll say, "Well, we've got these 10% or 15% of people. We rely on these people all the time. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't get any work done at all." And when I speak to them about the 20% at the other end, are the wasters and the skivers and the thieves and things, and I say to them, you leave them to me, and I'll deal with them. They panic and say, no, because we need them. I mean, they only do half a day's work, they're always off, but we need them or we wouldn't get through it. And they don't realise that actually by getting rid of that 20% at the bottom, productivity and efficiency goes up anyway, because the ones that are working okay but could work harder start working harder. So that's the first thing I do. The first thing is to look at it's not just the operatives, it's about the office staff as well. To look at the team to see who the good, the bad and the ugly are, and to see what I can do to streamline that and get it in a good position. And then the next thing then is software. There's an awful lot of them trying to improve their position just by throwing software at it, and it often doesn't work. But there is in fact a lot of good software out there now. And because of the regulations, compliance, of course, is the big one just now, whether it's asbestos or fire safety or electrical safety, gas, whatever. There's good software out there now that if you've got the team right, then the next stage is to give them the tools to do the job properly.
Of course.
Yes, and that's why there's a lot of good software that'll tackle compliance. One of the big problems they've got is the stock condition. Most of them don't know the condition of their stock. So although they talk about 5-year and 30-year plans, they're just pulling out of the air, because if you don't know, the condition of a property and whether it needs new kitchens or doesn't need new kitchens, then how can you plan how much you're going to spend over the next 5 years or indeed the 30 years? So that's the next thing I do, is to look to make sure we've got good stock condition data. And I prefer to use it with our own teams. I don't like to go out to some of the big surveying companies. They don't have people just sitting waiting ready to do your job anyway. They just hire people in. So I tend to hire people in myself, and depending on the size of the operation, take whatever time it needs to get good stock condition data, so you know exactly what you need to do in various properties.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that then leads you on to, do you dispose of properties or do you refurbish them? There are some properties that actually you could throw lots of money at them and you're wasting your money, really. It'd be better to try and get rid of them. So you have to determine where it's going to be worthwhile to refurbish, because you're not going to make any older property as good, as thermally efficient, and as economically, as environmentally friendly as a new property.
It's a good point, and there's a big focus on that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a big focus. So and they often make the wrong mistake. They get it wrong. So it's about how much is it going to cost to do this, and what would the property be like after it was done. How efficient could you make it? Is it of an acceptable level? So you have to set that parameter, and then use that to decide, like, I'd get rid of these, or I'd keep these.
Yeah.
And I've seen it's done very successfully. Lots of housing schemes are very dense, and they're mixed types of properties, but they're very dense. So we have 2 or 3 different types of properties, hundreds of each one, and it's sometimes a case of we're going to just demolish all those flats to give us more space, but we're going to build some bigger, higher rise flats to make up for the number of tenants.
Yeah, because it's a long-term view, isn't it?
Yes, and although there's money coming to build new properties from the government, which is welcome, they won't want you spending it on existing properties. They'll want you to actually build new properties. So they'll still have to keep that in mind.
Am I right in thinking that if you're a social housing provider and you know the quality of your stock, so you know what repair and maintenance it's going to need because you've done some evaluation on it, and then you've got a good case to put to the government that says, yes, but this on a recent evaluation, this 15% of our housing stock isn't worth repairing. So therefore, we should be first in line to get some of the funding for the new build.
Yes,
is that a thing?
That's what they're all probably doing just now, or they certainly should be doing just now. And as I say, the problem is so many of them don't have a good stock condition data. They don't really know the proper condition of their stock. But assuming that you do know the stock condition, then the first thing you do is exactly that. You've got to say, right, to get this money from the government, we're going to have to go and say, look, we could set this parameter. We'd have to get rid of these. We'd like to keep these, and we'd like to build these other ones, and this is the money we need for it.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Although they're putting in quite a bit of money, there's still going to be a tussle to get your share.
Yeah, of course. You're going to have to put a good case forward. So
yeah, sure.
If you've got an organisation whereby they've not got any major problems, everything seems to be working okay. Yes, they might be a bit behind on the maintenance and a little bit of noise from tenants, but not too much noise, and they seem to be managing it okay. If you were to come in and do something like a stock evaluation, is that going to be disruptive, or can that be done sort of quite quietly, but done really professionally in the background?
No, it can be done quietly and professionally. People want to know why you're doing it, but that's why I like to use my own teams to do it anyway, so that they're able to explain to tenants what they're there for, and they're just checking on the property, make sure everything's all right. And So you take the approach, we're checking our existing records. You're down to get new kitchens in 10 years or whatever. We're down to see if that's the case, or do you need them sooner or whatever. So that's the approach I always take with it.
Yeah, that's a nice way to do it. And I found it interesting what you said at the beginning part of the conversation about losing the 20% that's not performing. I think the comment that I remember from the work that you've done with us before, so the comment from the client was, we've got less people and we're doing more.
Yes, that's exactly it. But it's very hard often getting that across to some of these teams. So you have to have the full backing of the senior management. They have to be on board because you want to push it through. I notice when I go to a lot of these uh, places, you'll find, especially in councils, there are people that have been on sick leave since I was a boy, just about. And
Yeah.
when you say to them, why aren't you tackling them? Uh, they don't really have an answer. But it's easy to get in there and start ruffling feathers. And as soon as you start ruffling feathers, then things start to improve, don't they?
Well, yeah, you're amazed at how many people come out of the woodwork and say, "Oh,
Yes.
actually, I feel better now. I'm
Yeah, I feel
okay to
come
come
back
back
to
to
work
work
now.
now." Yeah. And if there's a maintenance director already, and the board are relatively happy with the maintenance director, and they might be on a career plan or something like that, can you come in and support them and make all this happen without disrupting them, or is it something where they need to move on?
that's, that's a political question. Yeah. One of the greatest problems for me is trying to convince the person you're talking about, look, I'm just here to help you. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a professional interim. I've been doing it for 25 years. I've done in social housing, I've done about 12, 13 of them. I just want to get in, do the job and go. I'm no threat to you or to anybody else. But that's often the biggest problem. And often you're there because things haven't been going well and they've been in charge.
Yeah.
And they want to keep the person because they actually know he or she's pretty good. But he or she feels a bit, embarrassed that this Graeme Haskett's coming in to sort things out.
But it doesn't have to be that way
No,
because
it doesn't.
if you're bringing in an expert in looking at it independently, a third party view, everybody needs that from time to time. And I've never known you go into an organisation and be disruptive
No,
and
I
be a
never would.
problem.
I never would. But
So
there's a bit of a bias. They've made their mind up before you get there, and it can be a bit challenging. Some it's okay. You show them how you're going to do it, and they're happy. Some just tolerate you. But I have had situations where it's been very difficult because they're trying to stop you at any turn.
well, this is where the board sponsorship comes in. So this is
Yes.
where, the chief executive or the chief operating officer or whoever it is, they're the person that needs to sponsor this. And, it could be under the guise of, we're going to do some improvement. It could be under the guise of we're going to implement some new software. It could be the guise of, we need to give you a bit more executive bandwidth for a period of time. Or it could be, doing something like a stock check or something like that. There's lots of different ways you can bring in someone like you, but I think you raise a fair point, and we see this from most of our career interim managers. They'll never take a permanent role.
No.
They don't. They don't do BAU. It's a different skill set to do business as usual.
No, it's another pair of eyes with a lot of varied experience. So
Yeah.
there's bound to be something that you can add to it. And as you say, that's the approach you've got to take, and
Yeah,
hope,
I agree with that.
hope they come on board. But it's really important to get the chief executive or whoever's hiring you, the MD, to say, look, this guy has to be supported. He's coming to help us, and he's only going to be here 6 months, 9 months, whatever. And we want it done as quickly as possible.
And I think as an agent, as an interim management provider, we help with that too. So first of all, we can explain to the chief exec and even the maintenance director, the reason why we've been asked to come and help and come and support. But what we also do is we draft objectives for you to deliver. And once the maintenance director starts to see those objectives, it becomes really clear that you're not there to take their job.
Yeah.
You've got a different set of objectives to what they have. It's complementary, but it's a different set of objectives. And that seems to calm the situation a lot of the time.
And that's very important. But not everybody does that.
Of course. I understand that. But I think, we've got a Labour government. Labour traditionally have put more money into social housing, housing maintenance, housing repairs. We've got the green agenda, which is obviously going to make some influence as well, and energy prices going up. So I think if I was a social housing provider, then I'd be looking at my current stock right now thinking, I need to do an up-to-date stock check to make sure that we're front in line for some of this money coming through.
And
they're going to want data.
That should be their whole approach, that we're bringing this person in because they've got particular experience, because we need to work quickly to try and get as much money as we can. So we need expert help to generate that portfolio. What does it look like?
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll mention to a few of our social housing maintenance clients that it might be worthwhile having a chat with you, and you can explain a little bit about where you can add some value in. But I think, in terms of the podcast that we've done today and what you've explained, hopefully there'll be more people out there that are just a bit more comfortable thinking, I need to bring in this expert for a short period of time to get us to the place where we want to be.
Yes, hopefully.
Good stuff. Graeme, thank you very much for your time, sir. It's great to see you again.
It's good to see you too. We'll need to go back to Hooters before long.
I'm going to re-record that.
Yes, I'm sure. It was good to see you again, Mark.
Good to see you again. Cheers. Bye.
Ta-ra.